The lobby of the Fairmont Tower glittered like a palace, polished marble, gold fixtures, fresh lilies scenting the air. And in the middle of it all stood Victoria Hale, CEO of Hale Dynamics, perfectly pressed in a tailored white Chanel suit, laughing too loudly with two European investors who had already rejected her twice. She didn't know yet that this morning would determine the fate of her collapsing empire. At 9:04 a.m., a black man in a navy polo and crisp khakis stepped through the revolving doors. Calm, confident, carrying a leather portfolio tucked neatly under his arm. He walked directly toward Victoria. "Ms. Hale," he said warmly. "I'm Adrian Cole. We have a 9 a.m. meeting regarding the Series C investment." He extended his hand, steady, polite, professional. Victoria stared at that hand like it carried disease. Her smile vanished. Her posture stiffened. "Excuse me," she said, her voice turning sharp. "Who let you in here?" The investors beside her exchanged awkward glances. Adrian kept his hand out, trying again. "My assistant confirmed the meeting weeks ago. Cole Capital." "I know what you said," Victoria snapped. "But this is a meeting for real investors, not." She looked him up and down, slowly, deliberately. Polo, khakis, sneakers, and ended with a tight smirk. "Not people who show up like that." A beat of silence. Adrian lowered his hand. "Ms. Hale, if you call your assistant." "Oh, I won't be calling anyone." Her voice rose, drawing eyes across the lobby. "Security. Remove him. Now." Two guards hurried over. One looked uncomfortable. The other looked eager. Adrian exhaled calmly. "There's been a misunderstanding." "There's no misunderstanding," Victoria said, stepping back from him with disgust. "You are interrupting a private meeting. Leave, or I'll have you arrested for trespassing." Phones came out. Someone started recording. Adrian straightened his shoulders. "I'll go. No escort needed." But Victoria wasn't finished humiliating him. "Oh no," she said loudly. "Escort him out. Make sure he doesn't sneak into anyone else's meeting." Gasps spread through the lobby. Adrian walked out with dignity, the guards trailing behind him. He didn't plead. He didn't argue. He simply looked back at Victoria once, calm, unreadable, before stepping into the sunlight outside. Inside, Victoria brushed off her sleeve as though removing dirt. "Scammers," she muttered to the investors. "You have to be careful with people." She had no idea she had just thrown out the only investor willing to save her dying company. And in less than 3 hours, she would find out exactly who Adrian Cole really was. Victoria Hale swept back into her corner office on the 38th floor, feeling triumphant for reasons even she couldn't explain. She poured herself sparkling water, rehearsing the story she would later tell her assistant. Something about another imposter trying to sneak into meetings. But 20 minutes later, her assistant, Clara, stepped in holding a tablet with trembling hands. "Ms. Hale, I need to ask you something, privately," Clara said. Victoria didn't look up. "Make it fast. I have a board call in 10 minutes. Clara hesitated, then placed the tablet on the desk. The screen displayed a headline from Forbes. "Adrian Cole, the billionaire investor who rewrites the rules." Victoria froze. The photo beneath the headline showed the man she had kicked out of the Fairmont lobby just an hour earlier. Same calm eyes, same easy posture, same casual clothes. Clara swallowed hard. "Ms. Hale, was that the Adrian Cole you met this morning?" Victoria's heartbeat spiked. "No," she whispered automatically. "No, that can't be him." Clara scrolled. More photos appeared. Adrian on stage at a tech summit. Adrian speaking at MIT. Adrian shaking hands with CEOs Victoria had spent years begging to meet. His net worth flashed across the screen. $4.2 billion. Victoria's stomach dropped. Her palms went cold. Clara kept talking, voice shaky. "He confirmed the meeting 3 weeks ago. I have the emails. He was prepared to discuss a $600 million investment." Victoria pushed back from her desk, so quickly the chair slammed into the window. "No, no, 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 oh my God." Her breath came shallow. "Call him. Now." Clara tried. Voicemail. Victoria tried. Voicemail. She sent an email. No response. Another. No response. Panic crept up her throat like rising water. Her CFO, Daniel, rushed into the office minutes later after Clara alerted him. "Victoria," he said, breathless. "Please tell me you didn't actually throw out Adrian Cole." "I didn't know who he was." Daniel rubbed his temples. "He's famous for that." He never wears suits to first meetings. It's a test of character. Oh, please, no one does that in real life, she snapped. He does. Every major founder knows that. You would too if you ever read your briefings. Victoria opened her mouth to argue, then closed it. Daniel's voice softened but carried a grimness. Victoria, he was our last hope. The board knows it. If he walks, we're finished. Her phone buzzed. A news alert. A tweet from a European investor who'd witnessed the scene. Deeply unprofessional behavior from a certain CEO today. How you treat people matters. Already thousands of likes. Victoria's blood ran cold. Reporters started emailing. Employees started whispering. Board members started calling. And still no reply from Adrian. By 3 p.m., the silence was louder than any confrontation. By 4 p.m., the first article appeared. CEO mistakes billionaire for imposter. Throws him out of meeting. By 5 p.m., the board chairman called. His voice was heavy, disappointed. Victoria, you may have just cost us the company. When the call ended, Victoria felt the full weight of her choices crushing down on her. Her world, once untouchable, was collapsing in real time. And the only person who could save her company was the man she had humiliated in front of an entire lobby. But Adrian Cole wasn't answering her calls. Not today. Maybe not ever. Victoria barely slept. The headlines played on repeat in her mind, each one a punch to the ribs. By dawn, she'd rewritten 3 apology emails, deleted 2, and sent one final version that sounded less like an excuse and more like desperation. Adrian still didn't reply. By 6 a.m., she was on the first flight to New York, anxiety gnawing at her chest like an animal. She didn't bother changing clothes. Her Chanel suit from yesterday was wrinkled, the sleeve stained with spilled airplane coffee. But none of that mattered now. What mattered was getting Adrian Cole to look her in the eye and hear her apology. At 7:58 a.m., she stepped into the gleaming marble lobby of Cole Capital headquarters. It felt colder than the Fairmont, quieter, sharper, like the kind of place where mistakes lived forever. She approached the front desk. "Good morning," the receptionist said. "Welcome to Cole Capital." "I need to see Mr. Cole," Victoria said. Her voice cracked despite her effort to sound composed. "It's urgent. Do you have an appointment?" "No, but he'll want to see me." The receptionist hesitated, then picked up the phone. Victoria watched every flicker of her expression, hope rising, hope sinking. After a moment, she hung up gently. "I'm sorry, Ms. Hale. Mr. Cole is unavailable today." Victoria exhaled shakily. "I'll wait." "Ma'am, he may not be available at all." "I'll wait," she repeated, lowering herself into a stiff leather chair near the windows. Minutes turned into an hour. An hour turned into 2. Employees walked past, whispering. Some recognized her from the viral video. A few gave her sympathetic smiles, but most gave her looks that said, "You brought this on yourself." At noon, the receptionist quietly brought her coffee. "You've been here a long time. Are you sure?" "I'm not leaving," Victoria whispered, hands wrapped around the cup like it was the last warm thing in her world. By 1:45 p.m., she felt numb. Her career, her reputation, her company, everything she'd built, teetered on a razor's edge. All because she had judged a man before he ever spoke. Finally, the receptionist's phone rang again. She looked up, startled, then at Victoria, then back at the phone. When she hung up, her expression softened. "Ms. Hale, Mr. Cole will see you now. 15 minutes. Conference room C." Victoria nearly collapsed with relief. She forced herself to stand tall, though her legs trembled. The elevator ride was suffocatingly silent. Her heart pounded. Her palms were damp. When the doors opened, Adrian was already seated at the conference table, calm and unreadable in a simple gray button-down. He didn't rise when she entered. "Ms. Hale," he said, "you asked for a meeting. You have 15 minutes. She sat, spine stiff, unable to meet his eyes. "Mr. Cole," she began, "I came to apologize. Deeply, sincerely. What I did yesterday wasn't a misunderstanding," Adrian said evenly. "It was judgment, assumption, bias." The words hit like cold rain. Victoria swallowed. "Yes, I know." Adrian leaned back, folding his hands. "You didn't know who I was, and that shouldn't matter. What matters is that you saw me and decided I didn't belong. Before I spoke, before I introduced myself, before I had the chance to show you anything except skin color and clothes." Her eyes burned. She didn't blink. He continued, voice steady but not unkind. Yesterday, you needed security to escort me out. Today, you flew across the country to sit in a lobby for hours hoping I would talk to you. That's a dramatic shift, Ms. Hale. But it shouldn't take losing millions for someone to recognize another person's dignity. Victoria's voice trembled. You're right. And I'm ashamed. I'm asking, not for myself, but for my employees, for a chance to repair what I broke. Adrian studied her quietly, weighing something she could not name. Finally, he said, I am willing to invest, but on conditions that ensure this isn't a performance, it's real change. He slid a document across the table. Her eyes widened as she read. A public apology, independent audit, bias training, board diversity requirements, personal donation, and stepping down as CEO within 30 days. Her breath hitched. This will destroy my reputation, she whispered. No, Adrian said softly. Your actions already did that. These steps rebuild what matters, integrity. Tears slipped from her eyes before she could stop them. I agree, she whispered. Adrian nodded once, calm, resolved. Then let's begin. And for the first time, Victoria understood. This wasn't a negotiation. This was accountability. 48 hours later, Victoria Hale stood behind a podium facing a wall of cameras. The lights were blinding. The air felt heavy, thick with judgment, curiosity, and the unmistakable scent of scandal. Her hands trembled as she adjusted the microphone. She had given keynote speeches around the world, led multi-billion-dollar deals, commanded auditoriums with confidence. But today, she felt like a child standing trial. She took a slow, deliberate breath. Yesterday, she began, voice unsteady, I committed an act of racial profiling. A murmur rippled through the crowd. I refused to shake hands with investor Adrian Cole. I judged him based on his appearance and skin color. I humiliated him publicly. That moment was not a misunderstanding. It was bias. My bias. Cameras flashed. Pens scratched. Reporters stared, unblinking. Victoria continued, forcing her voice not to break. There is no excuse. I own what I did. And because of that, I am committing to the following actions. She outlined Adrian's terms. Independent cultural audit. Full diversity restructuring. Mandatory bias training. A $5 million personal donation. And stepping down as CEO within 30 days. Every sentence cut a piece out of her pride, her image, her past identity. But every sentence also rebuilt something she had never prioritized before, accountability. Questions exploded the moment she stepped back. Are you resigning because you were caught? Do you expect forgiveness? Do you believe you're still fit for leadership? Victoria answered each without flinching. No, I'm not fit to lead. Not right now. Not until I've done the work I should have done years ago. The conference ended. The world reacted instantly. Headlines spread like wildfire. CEO admits racial bias in viral scandal. Hale Dynamics faces reckoning. Accountability or performance? Some praised her honesty. Most condemned her. By evening, the board demanded an emergency meeting without her. She sat alone in her office as the sun set behind the city skyline, her reflection faint in the glass like a ghost of the woman she used to be. When the phone finally rang, she already knew. It was the board chairman. Victoria, the vote was unanimous. You're removed as CEO effective immediately. Her chest tightened, but she didn't argue. She didn't plead. She simply whispered, I understand. Marcus will step in as interim CEO, he added. He'll need your cooperation during the transition. Marcus, her COO. Brilliant. Steady. Overlooked. She'd dismissed him more times than she could count, never realizing he saw the cracks forming long before she did. He'll do well, Victoria said softly. The call ended. And just like that, the empire she built, her identity, her status, her pride, slipped from her hands. The following weeks were a blur of consequences. 3 corporate boards quietly removed her. Tech conferences deleted her name from their speaker lists. Investors who once called her visionary now avoided her emails entirely. Out in public, people recognized her from the viral video. At a grocery store, a woman approached her cart. You're that CEO, she said with a harsh whisper. The one who judged that man. Shame on you. At a restaurant, the hostess told her they were full, even though half the tables were empty. Every interaction reminded her of something she had never felt before, being judged without being known. Meanwhile, Hale Dynamics began its transformation. Under Marcus's leadership, employees felt seen. Policies changed. New people were promoted. Old patterns cracked open. For the first time, the company had a soul that wasn't shaped by Victoria's ambition, but by collective purpose. And Victoria watched all of it from the sidelines. No longer the center, no longer the face of innovation, but someone learning, painfully, what her blind spots had cost. She wasn't redeemed. Not even close. But the fall had begun reshaping her into someone she never expected to become. Someone willing to rebuild from the inside out. Someone willing to face the truth, even when it hurt. 3 months after the scandal, Victoria Hale walked into a quiet cafe in Palo Alto and felt every eye shift toward her. Some people whispered. Some stared openly. A few lifted their phones, not to take photos, but to document that she was there. The humiliation was constant now, subtle, persistent, and impossible to ignore. It was the first time in her life she understood even a fraction of what it felt like to be judged before speaking. Her days had become a routine of uncomfortable truths. Bias training twice a week. Leadership therapy once a week. And, per her agreement with Adrian Cole, a full cultural audit that exposed everything she had refused to see. The report was brutal. Black employees promoted at far lower rates. HR complaints dismissed without investigation. Hiring practices shaped by coded language, polished, culture fit, leadership image. It was a mirror held to her face. And the reflection was ugly. Meanwhile, Hale Dynamics, her former company, looked nothing like the one she once ruled. Under Marcus's leadership, the executive team diversified. Pay gaps narrowed. Workplace culture finally felt equitable. Employee engagement skyrocketed. And Adrian's investment fueled innovation she hadn't been able to achieve in years. The company was thriving. Without her, that reality hurt in a way she couldn't put into words, but it was also necessary. Because for the first time in years, Victoria wasn't chasing power. She was learning how to confront the harm she had caused. Her inbox filled with messages from organizations asking for statements on diversity or invitations to panels titled Lessons in Failure. She declined them. Not because she didn't want to speak, but because she didn't deserve to speak yet. She needed to listen. The cultural audit team invited her to attend employee listening sessions. She wasn't required to be there, but she went anyway. One session stayed with her. A black engineer spoke with his hands trembling, though his voice remained steady. "I love my job," he said, "but I never felt seen here." Every performance review said the same thing. Not ready yet. Not a leadership fit. Needs polish. "I have 2 patents. But every time I spoke, people talked over me." Victoria closed her eyes. He was describing the same coded language she had once used. Another employee said quietly, "I wasn't surprised when you kicked Mr. Cole out. That's how it feels here. Like we're guests in someone else's home." Those words carved themselves into Victoria's chest. After the session, she found herself alone in the parking lot, gripping the steering wheel, unable to start her car. The weight of what she'd ignored, what she'd allowed, pressed down until her breath trembled. The next week brought a new wave of consequences. 3 former employees filed a discrimination lawsuit. Her private emails surfaced, messages she barely remembered writing but now saw clearly as dismissive and coded. The case settled quietly. 7 figures. Her personal funds. But some consequences weren't measured in money. At a Stanford lecture on leadership ethics, a professor used her scandal as the opening case study. She watched from the back row as students debated her decisions, her biases, her downfall. She didn't walk out. She took notes. And slowly, painfully, she started to change. She began volunteering at organizations supporting underrepresented founders, quietly, anonymously. She met with women she'd once brushed aside. She sat in circles where she wasn't the authority, wasn't the expert, wasn't the center. It felt strange, uncomfortable, and essential. Meanwhile, Adrian's influence grew. The Cole Capital Black Founder Fund expanded to $250 million. Startups he mentored flourished. His TED Talk, "Dignity Shouldn't Depend on a Fortune Ranking," went viral. He became a symbol of what leadership could look like when forged from humility and lived experience rather than privilege. Victoria watched from the shadows, not with jealousy, but with a sense of clarity. The world didn't need her at the top right now. The world needed her to grow. 6 months after her resignation, Her phone buzzed with a calendar reminder she had set on the day everything fell apart. Review progress. Ask, who am I becoming? She stared at it for a long time. For once, she didn't feel fear or shame. She felt something new. Readiness. Because her story wasn't ending. It was shifting, and fate was about to bring her face to face with Adrian Cole again. Not as adversaries, not as victim and offender, but as two people changed by the same moment of truth. A full year had passed since the moment that shattered Victoria Hale's life and rebuilt it from the inside out. Now she stood once again in the gleaming lobby of the Fairmont Tower. Same chandeliers, same marble floors, same polished air of wealth. But nothing about her was the same. This time, she wasn't hosting. She wasn't dominating the room. She wasn't performing power. She was simply present. Hale Dynamics, now under CEO Marcus Chun, was hosting its annual investor summit. The event was packed with founders, venture firms, and industry leaders. The air buzzed with optimism instead of fear. And today, one guest commanded the most attention. Adrian Cole. He walked in just after 9 a.m., calm, confident, wearing a charcoal polo and pressed khakis. Casual as always. A ripple moved through the room as people recognized him. Victoria waited near the entrance, not to intercept him, not to assert anything, but to acknowledge what their shared history had created. When Adrian reached her, she spoke first. "Mr. Cole," she said softly, "thank you for being here." This time, she held out her hand, not expecting forgiveness, not assuming acceptance, just offering respect. Adrian paused for a breath. Then he shook her hand. Firm, steady, real. "Thank you for inviting me, Victoria," he said, using her first name, not as an equalizer, but as recognition of the work she had done. They walked together into the main conference hall. Conversation quieted as they entered side by side, not as a reluctant investor and a desperate CEO, but as two people who had shaped a new chapter of corporate accountability. Marcus took the stage to present Hale Dynamics' transformation. Revenue had doubled. Employee satisfaction had soared. The leadership team was diverse, strong, unified. "Our progress," Marcus said, "is proof that companies don't fall apart when they confront their flaws. They grow." Applause filled the room. Later, during a panel discussion, a moderator from Bloomberg asked Adrian, "A year ago, you were publicly disrespected by this company's founder. Today you're partnering with them. Why?" Adrian leaned forward, voice calm but powerful. "Because accountability matters. Real accountability. Not a press release, not damage control, actual change. Victoria did that work, and the employees deserved the chance that came with it." Then the moderator turned to Victoria. "What would you tell leaders who think bias can't bring down a company?" Victoria took a breath. "That it already can," she said. "And it will. You don't lose companies because of bad numbers. You lose them because of blind spots you refuse to confront. A year ago, I acted on bias I never examined. It cost me my position and nearly cost 3,000 people their livelihoods. If Adrian hadn't chosen accountability over pride, this company wouldn't exist today." Silence fell, heavy, reflective. Then applause erupted, louder than before. After the panel, Victoria found herself alone with Adrian backstage. The hum of conversation drifted in from the hallway. "I know I've said this before," she murmured, "but thank you. Not for forgiving me, because you didn't owe me that, but for holding me accountable in a way that forced real change." Adrian nodded. "I didn't do it for you," he said gently. "I did it for everyone who gets judged before they speak. For every founder who gets dismissed because they don't look wealthy enough. For every employee who gets silenced in their own workplace." Victoria smiled, not in pride, but in understanding. "And I'm grateful that you did." They shook hands again. Not a formal gesture, not a forced moment, but a handshake that meant something neither could have imagined a year before. As Adrian walked toward the stage for his keynote talk, he turned back once. "Oh, and Victoria," he said. "Yes, you've done the work. Keep doing it." She nodded. "I will." The lights dimmed. The crowd quieted. Adrian stepped onto the stage. His voice resonated through the hall. Dignity should never depend on a dress code. Respect shouldn't be something you earn. It should be something you're given by default. Judge less. Listen more. And remember, sometimes the moment you think ruined you is the one that saves you. The audience rose in a standing ovation. Victoria watched from backstage, tears pricking her eyes, not of shame this time, but of clarity. A year ago, she refused to shake his hand. Today, she earned it. Her fall had become her transformation. And Adrian's grace had become her catalyst. Not redemption, not perfection, just growth. The kind that lasts.